Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is July 3, 2022. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Gabby Chesnet. Is that the correct way to pronounce it?
No, it's not. It's pronounced Shine, but everybody gets it wrong.
Shene. Oh, thank you for correcting it. Shene. Thank you. What's the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being is to take it easy.
Take it easy. I love that. I never get that answer. I'm
It
following
sounds
your
very
advice.
simple.
That's pretty simple. I mean, everybody's so hyper. Why not take it easy?
Absolutely.
What's your favorite form of information? How do you?
Sorry?
What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Of information as a whole.
Yeah, like you, when I ask you a question, you put them into the context you want. So
Right.
whatever you want to decide information is fine with me.
I like to hear it.
Here, yeah.
Yes.
Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Because it brings them joy, but also they don't want to forget.
It's really good. You are concise with words. You really get this. I appreciate it. Do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
Oh, there's definitely both, but I think through the last century, it's become more and more invented.
Yeah. Do thoughts create emotions?
They can, but the other way around.
Yeah. Fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I.
I don't know what I think until I. Well, I'm contradicting myself here because I would say until I see it, but I would have to say until I hear it.
Contradicting yourself's a good thing.
It is. It is.
But it's funny because the eye and the ear are so dominant in the five senses. And they, neuroscientists want to say sight is more dominant a, a sense than the other four. But hearing, the funny thing about hearing is we don't have earlids. We have eyelids. So even if you're like deaf and you go in a punk club and you cover your ears, it still vibrates through your ears,
I think that's
through
why I
your,
said here
yeah,
because even if I don't want to hear something, I have to hear it anyway, and I have to take that into consideration, and that has to make me think. So until I hear it,
yeah, yep. Can humans think without language?
that's a good question because I used to study language, and I definitely think they can.
Yeah.
I will not elaborate.
You don't have to elaborate whenever you don't want to. That's fine. So Chomsky says a language is not just words, it's culture, tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work, when language breaks down?
That's kind of a situation I've had to deal with before as a traveler, but also dealing with people who are really under the influence. And what works to me is the symbolic things that are common to each one of us, no matter often the culture or the time period. This is why I love old media so much, because there are some things that can get through me, even though I'm not sure I understand the language, but I can understand the point that they're trying to make, more or less. If
Yeah,
that
I
makes
love
sense.
that makes a lot of sense. I love that word symbolic. We'll definitely get into that more. Your observations of humans in general, are we more feeling beings or more thinking beings?
Feeling beings all the way, I think.
Yeah. These are
And
2
then thinking.
and then thinking, yeah. Well, it's funny because a lot of people go, "I think we're more feeling beings."
No,
I
I
mean, that
feel we're more feeling beings.
yeah. Well, my friend actually flips it. He goes, "I feel we're more thinking beings." But the funny thing is that it's both, and you can't really separate feelings from thinking, but because we invented the words, we think we can separate 'em.
I think that really ties into the whole of everything I used to learn and study about language, and how language, by trying to put into words these things that we feel and think, actually ends up complicating it even more.
Yep. So these are 2 questions, speak about old, these are 2 questions from Alan Turing in 1950s.
Ooh,
Is thinking a function of the soul?
define soul. If I'm allowed to ask things back,
Yes, you are told well, it's like, Lily Tomlin says, "Reality is just a collective hunch." It's like our hunch is sort of common what we might think a soul is, but it is a tricky word because so many people think soul is different. I mean, we both in the music world, when we think of soul music, it's like amazing. What
well,
soul
there's that
music is
religious element.
yeah, and then
Many
Turing
people
might
think.
be implying yeah, Turing might be implying religion. I mean, I would just go with your hunch. What you generally think the soul is thinking a function of that, whatever the soul is.
I think we can't really escape that. I think as long as you have a soul, and I think every single human being has whatever that is, you cannot escape thinking, unfortunately. And I would love to escape thinking a lot of the time. And I think anybody who also gets trapped into things like substances, or who goes into academic fields, are trying to escape thinking by lying too much into it, by being a contrarian and building their life around avoiding it. They end up thinking too much.
Yeah.
Just reflecting on that.
No, that was good. In this second Turing question is, can machines think?
That's an interesting, relevant question lately, but I I would love to think so, but I don't believe that they can achieve the same level of thinking as a human being. For now, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe just for now, but I think it's the what is it called? The Chinese room experiment. Is that any person, or it's the same as with children learning a first language. Or I thought about that about my dog literally yesterday, that he learns all these words, but I don't know if he thinks in philosophical terms, and I don't think we can find out until he speaks. And so that's where thinking and language intertwine.
Yeah. That there's a cartoon I love. It's a dog is barking, "Arf, arf, arf," and then it says, "Translation in human language. Hey, hey, hey."
We may
Well,
never
that's it.
know.
Yeah, well, that's anthropomorphizing. That's a big issue. I mean, you know. But
Yes, and I think
I
we do that with everything, including machines.
yeah. Yeah, like, people get in their car and go, "Please start," or, people talk to their cell phone, "Please get through to the."
That, but when people call their cars or their boats "she," that's
Yeah.
always been very strange to me. It's a car, it's a boat, you know? It's amazes me.
Yeah. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I try to find a healthy balance
Yeah.
because too
Good.
much of one thing, I always try to be in the pursuit of happiness, but if I can't find meaning, I know that it's gonna come uh, running back to me. It's
Yeah.
like I said earlier that if I try and avoid it, it's gonna be even worse. So better to go easy about it because I don't find the pursuit of finding meaning very uh, relaxing or easy or anything at all.
Yeah.
It's quite painful a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
Well, I got it from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says, "Meaning lasts and happiness doesn't necessarily last." You
That's
know?
very true. But
Yeah.
a way to make happiness last is to be one of these people who are really good at mindfulness.
Yeah.
And maybe you find mindfulness through meaning. So
Yeah. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we actually creating it?
I feel like I don't have the knowledge in neuroscience to answer that question, but my guess would be that it creates the consciousness. And I would love to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's research about this that's being done, but that's an interesting topic that I've often wondered about, and then it freaks me out because I think of all the neurons in my brain. They're like, "Are you self-aware, or do you think you're self-aware?"
That is good. Yeah, like you talk to your neurons. Are you aware or you think you're that is really a great question to ask yourself.
Well, you can ask that, and what freaks me out is asking them, or rather telling them, "Please keep me alive," with like keep making my heart beat and things like that. Please.
That's good. Please. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
I would say depends on the person, but
Very good.
right now that was definitely speed of light, and I think for most people in most cases it's speed of light. But depending on the thought, if you take like the most sorry, that's my cat if you can hear that in the background. If you take the most internal primal kind of feeling, like, see, that there's spiders, that things that's very innate to us, that when we see the outline of a spider, even though we don't fear them, we don't have a phobia, there's this knee-jerk reaction to it in the brain. And I think that's possibly quicker than the speed of light.
Yeah,
Just an example, but
yeah. No,
when
that was
people say, "Oh, I saw that person and I fell in love instantly," whatever.
yeah, no, that's a good, example. So the poet Audre Lorde said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Yvonne Rainer responded, said, "You can if you expose the tools." What new tool do you suggest?
That's a big I think that may be better answered by people who are in most need of the platform to be talking about dismantling the master's house.
Yeah,
To me, this really rings through to talking about indigenous issues. And a very close friend of mine, roommate and best friend, is indigenous, and I've learned. I think I have a lot to learn. We all have a lot to learn, but from what I learned so far, it is best left to them to decide what are the tools in the first place and what do we do with them.
Yeah, it's well put. What new toy do you suggest?
What new toy do you suggest? I think language is a good starting point
That's a good toy. What do you
because
worry
who?
about? Oh,
Well,
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry. Well, language as in using it, but then who do you give it to? Who do you give the platform? Is what I meant.
Right. Give, or you mean is who gets the or who is the platform available to? It
Yeah,
shouldn't every platform be available to everybody, or maybe not,
it
I don't.
should be, but in certain situations and certain issues, from my point of view, there's some maybe people and communities that should um, maybe, I mean, surely be given that platform first, as in it concerns them very directly and they have kind of an authority to speak on a topic if they're going to be deciding what we do with language.
Yeah. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Well, first off, my doctor has prescribed me Valium at night, so I don't really worry about anything. Very technical terms, but jokes aside, the usual, I would say, everybody I think worries about the past and the future,
Yeah,
which
wow.
is extremely simple. It's wow, I really fucked up when I did this, and wow, I'm really gonna fuck up when I do this. But you just don't get hung up on it. As I said earlier, really take it easy.
Yeah,
But that's better said than done. It's a very boring platitude, I know.
I think it's a great mantra. In fact, my brother told me this line years ago, and I just talked to him a couple days ago, and I repeated it to him. It's by Clarence Fountain of the Blind Boys of Alabama. I ain't as good as I ought to be, but I'm getting better every day.
Exactly.
That is a
It's kind of like
great
that.
answer.
What the Beatles said. It's getting better all the time.
Yeah.
That song pisses me off for some reason. I don't know why, but I don't know. It's getting better all the time.
But it is this thing about past and future. I mean, my mantra is Wyndham Lewis, the artist, graphic artist. He said, "Artists live in the present and write a detailed history of the future." So, I mean, isn't the point to be here now? Live live the moment. So when we go to bed, what do we worry about? According to Gabby, the past and the future. Well, shouldn't you be worrying about the moment? It's like, I'm gonna go to sleep now and be easily
Well,
fall asleep.
if I really have to worry about something, because I think I've been blessed by the supernatural ability to fall asleep extremely fast. Anybody who's been in a room with me can confirm that I fall asleep in 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I can lay down anywhere, fall asleep extremely fast. It's always been like this. I do not know why. If I'm struggling to fall asleep, something is wrong. Something is really wrong. I've had maybe a terrible day. So that's why I really usually do not worry much at night before going to
yeah,
bed. I worry during the day when it's more of a problem to be
yeah.
worrying.
Well, how would you differentiate between worry and concern?
Worrying makes it sound urgent. Concern can be more of a background thing.
Yeah,
As in, I'm worried about this. Sounds like, oh, it's happening. And I'm concerned about this. Seems like, yeah, well, I can do or not do something about it. I am just concerned. Usually, when people tell me they're concerned about something, I'm a bit skeptical because it's like, yeah, we are concerned about so and so progressive social topic. Usually, is a dog whistle for we don't want them here.
Yeah.
That's my problem with the word concern.
Hey, you're smart, Gabby. I'm learning a lot. I appreciate it. So, Marshall McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. And by artists, we mean musicians, painters, poets, whatever, all encompassing. And he said they're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so that we can learn to cope with what we don't like about the inventions. So I asked you the question McLuhan pondered his whole career. Why do humans ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though artists are broadcasting them to us?
Oh, because we're uncomfortable. We're just not comfortable with hearing most things, with seeing most things, and to put it, I'm not a very blunt person, but to put it bluntly, we would rather use media and art to quote unquote feel good or
Yeah,
forget about certain things rather than be confronted to them or question them or examine them. I don't know how you
yeah,
pronounce that. Examine them.
assume, yeah.
Well, if that's something that's happened in my own music even recently. It's there is one track that I finished that is very personal, and it's got a lot of um, I would say painful metaphors to it. Not to be dramatic, because it's not a dramatic song or anything. But when people don't hear, I don't know if they don't hear that it's personal voluntarily or not. If they choose to ignore it, or if they unconsciously don't realize the weight it can hold. That mostly happened with something I released several years ago, where I keep seeing it even now. People are beside the point, and I'm like, do you consciously ignore the weight um, of the things that I'm trying to say through the art because you would rather be entertained? If that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It evokes Auden the poet said the mystery of art is that we don't know if it activates or pacifies us. And pacifying could mean like Breck said, "Oh, I don't want art that puts you in a trance. I want it to activate you." Well, art that puts you in a trance might eventually activate you, or could it activate you? So that's the mystery of art, is we don't know if it activates or pacifies. That's sort of the cool thing about your art, is once you put your song out there, it's no longer yours. They can do whatever they want with it, and if
In a
you
way,
they go,
that's good.
yeah,
That's what I
and
told myself. I said, well, I want to leave it to their interpretation. I don't want to force it on them.
yep,
It's in the eye of the beholder, whatever happens to the song. I know what I wanted to do with it, but I find it funny to see, wow, to me, it's very obvious that it's something heavy, but you never know what people are going to hear or make of the art.
yep.
Not even just my art, many pieces of art I see.
Yeah, and they might articulate it to you and not even be able to articulate it. That deep down inside, they're getting that, but they're like, "Oh." But, do the question, Gabby, is also, do artists have moral obligation?
Moral. I don't like the answer, but yes, because
That is great. I don't like the answer, but yes.
Well, no, I'm not going to reply what is convenient. I'm going to reply what I honestly believe,
That's
which is that
beautiful.
you can't really escape that. I'm not equating moral with political, but I can't remember, I'm sorry, who it is who had said that everything is political. Like,
Yeah,
in the end, art is political, and you have to be careful what you can perpetuate with what you do, and you have an obligation to at least maybe take a step back and look critically at what you do
yeah,
as an artist and think, I don't know, am I doing the right thing, to put
yeah.
it easily?
Yep. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Old ideas for sure. I'm someone who has, well, very personally, I have trouble dealing with the past more than the future, because I would rather not care about the future, because who knows? But the past is always there to haunt you.
Yeah,
It's always there to come crawling back when you want to most forget about it. And in my artist life, very sorry, that's the cat scratching at the door. In my artist life, I am not happy with what I've done in the past most of the time. I always think I'm improving. Even what I think I did 2 months ago, I'm not happy with it anymore. And what I'm doing right now is the best. And what I'm going to be doing in 2 months is going to be the best. So
yeah.
thinking of my old ideas is very cringy to me. And people keep saying, oh, free yourself of cringing. It's not productive. I know. I can't help it.
Cringy. I like word cringing. No, when my grandmother was in an elder's home, someone yelled out, "Let tomorrow worry about itself."
Right. I try to think about it that way, because it's, who is it who had said, if you've got one leg in the past and one leg in the future, you're pissing on the present. But at least the past you can dwell on and be miserable about all you want. But the future, nothing. Nobody has a crystal ball. At least I don't believe so. If some people can believe so, but I don't. I would rather not know. I would rather be in, what do you call it? Blissful ignorance.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny you have ESP because you anticipate the next question. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Yes,
Can you
I I am in a dark room. It's a sort of reception, a wedding or a birthday that's taking place in. I grew up in France. I don't know if in the US there's these places that you can rent out for birthdays or weddings, but everybody is at those huge tables in the main room, and I am in a little dark room. I think in a portable crib of sorts, and I'm terrified. That's
right.
such a sad first memory, but I don't remember if I was crying or screaming or something, but I felt very lonely, very scared. I knew that my mom was probably in the next room, but I just wanted to be out of there. And when I told my mom about this, she said, yeah, you were really annoying that night, and I had to carry you back and put you in my lap the whole night. So
Is
that's
memory
what I remember.
is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
It's blurs.
You are truly poetic, Gabby. That was super. Tell me
I
someone.
didn't come up with it.
Oh, who is that?
I have no idea. I've seen it online and I have not let go since, because I love the concept of a blurs.
A blurs. Tell me someone within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, who had an impact on you just briefly describe what that impact was?
My sister, uh, we have a huge age gap. I think she was about 15 when I was born. So she must have been in her early 20s when I gained sentience. I don't know. When I could start remembering things. And she was an artist. She's still an artist. And introducing me to a lot of music, movies, her drawings that she would do all the time. That was my first awakening to art, to enjoying art, I would say. And I can't thank her enough for that.
Beautiful. How about outside your immediate family? Same question.
That was an earliest influence
Well, whatever.
or in general.
It can be early, but someone who had an impact on you, like a role model, and what specific impact?
A role model. Actually, it can be really recent.
Yeah,
I would say it's my mentor Ira Ingber that I've been working with. I was in a very, very bad place last year when we just happened to meet, and everything that we've been doing musically and just our exchanges back and forth as friends, and to have that kind of feeling that he is a good mentor to me and pushing me in the right direction and teaching me the right things, um, has given me a whole new taste for music that I was ready to quit last year. I was gonna call it quits and do something else, and then he said, "No, you you should keep doing it." So
beautiful.
that's why I'm doing it now.
Just a few more philosophical questions, and then we'll dive deep into music. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Absolutely not. My mom was very adamant that she did not want me to be raised one way or another, that it was going to be my problem later. That's pretty much how she put it. She said, I want you to be as secular as you can. And if as an adult you discover that you have a certain affinity towards spirituality or religion, that is your business and we will not interfere, but we also won't force things,
Do you
which I'm
pray?
happy she did.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
Do
way.
I
Do
do I
you pray?
pray? No, I hope.
That's great. I hope. If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Great job. You're not coming back. Reincarnation terrifies me. I want to be told you're gonna rest.
um, Paul Krasner has a great line. He says, "I only believe in reincarnation in one of my past lives."
Exactly. Yeah.
Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
I like. Oh no, that sounds bad. I was gonna say I like the concept of evil, but no, I enjoy that we can discuss the concept of evil in general because I do think it uses people and things, and I'm the first person to randomly call things evil all the time. I will say Twitter is evil all the time. I won't elaborate, but I will just say it is evil, or a Jeff Bezos is evil.
Yeah,
But I don't believe that the human being, the person, the little baby, little child, is um was created by a demon.
yeah,
He's just evil.
yeah. We're all capable of evil things is what a lot of people say, that every
Yes.
human is capable of evil. Yeah. So this leads into the question, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you react to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Depends on the enemy. It depends, I think, is if the enemy is systemic or if the enemy is personal.
Yeah.
Because if it's my neighbor, I would rather ignore them. But if it's the system that is being rigged against me for who I am, then I won't ignore it. I would want to actively work to dismantle it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to people and enemies in the very like interpersonal sense, I try not to bother, and I think not acting like you don't have any until they're trying to strangle you is kind of
Yeah.
the vibe.
Yeah. Well, Ram Dass said, I'm having a real hard time loving George Bush. It's like fill in the blank. I'm having a real hard time loving Putin or Jeff Bezos or whoever. Like, what can you do? What does hating do in the long run? Does it help?
It can fuel action,
Yeah.
but most of the time, I try to act like I'm better than hating, which is nobody
Yeah.
is. But of course, I hate a lot of people and things that I find very evil. But I try in my good moments to take a step back and ask myself, what and where is the hate helping? Can it be a productive feeling?
Yeah.
Not productive as in does it generate capital? That's not the problem. But does it generate action that is good for me and for people, and or is it just torturing myself? So that's why I try and be one of these focus on the positive
Yeah.
people
It's
and
beautiful.
not on what I hate, but I'm not better than hating.
James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin over 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
To me, it's pretty obvious because if there is a play of something or a film of something, a piece of media or art is not made, in my humble opinion, it's not made to represent reality as closely as possible, but it's made to show a point of view of the person who made it, or the people who are in it, or who have been involved. I live in the countryside, sorry.
Wow.
Um, yeah, to me, that's if a piece of art is being made, it's because it has a point and a message. And if you're going to see the tree on the screen, it's probably because there is something about the tree that the person who made it framed it in a way that they would like you to see it. It's going to be very different if you go out and look at the tree in your backyard.
Yeah. Very different. And so, Abby, walk us through just briefly how you got to your sort of career. You're a photographer, you're an interviewer, and you're a musician, and you work with label releasing music. Walk us through the tipping points. Like you're going to school. Where did you go? I want to be a photographer. What was like a sort of tipping point for photography and then saying, I want to be a musician? You know, would you study in high school and college? And did that lead to your career?
You can look at where I went to high school and kind of picture it as a car slipping on ice the whole time until now. Nothing makes sense. I think I went to high school for communications and marketing, and I majored in that. And then I did about, I think, a year of studying English. I hated it because I thought I was fluent and they were not giving me good grades, and I took it personally. So I worked instead. I was a graphic designer. I got hired even though I had done nothing. I got very lucky. I did graphic design and I kept that experience for a year. With that money, I went to follow Primus on tour in California in 2018. But oh, I'm leaving out parts that are very important. From the year before, I had begun to follow the Flaming Lips throughout Europe with a group of people who call themselves the Love Bit, and who I love very much. They dress up and go to every show, and I had met their tour manager, and we had all hung out backstage, and I realized, wow, I want to be on the road, and I kind of want to do this every night. I would love to put on the show, to be the person backstage, because I had been making music since I was 13. I was playing every instrument I could get my hands on, but I was too shy to put myself out there. So being backstage, putting on the show, and then as I figured out, photographing musicians or being the one interviewing or any kind of backstage position was more comfortable. And so I ended up going to school. It was online school, a British one for music industry, music business. So I would have a line to put on my resume. And meanwhile, I was putting together things with a non-profit label. So it was mostly advice to artists and booking shows locally when I could. And that was much harder than I thought. And everything relating to helping artists was much harder than I thought. So it's on hold at the moment while I can gather up funds. And I focused on media more when I realized I could do this, have fun, and meet a lot of interesting people because I knew how to, I knew photography, I knew graphic design, and I had never done interviewing before, which was daunting, but I realized the worst anybody can say is no. So
Yeah,
that is how I met. Sorry,
no, go, yeah, how you met who?
that's how I met Ira. I
Yeah.
was interviewing him, and I gave him the CD, a CD that I had done with my duo Delcy Hill, with a really good friend a few years back, and we got a small following, and we love those who love us. But we had never really we did a show once, and because the tracks were so complicated, it was a hassle to put together. But Ira really liked it, and so I thought I should actually pursue music again outside of playing the guitar in my room. So that's how I got finally this year to, okay, I'm going to make a record and I'm going to keep going doing media. I got a job. I got laid off last week, but who knows where it will take us,
Yeah.
really.
That was a good summary, and I appreciate it. I'm curious. A screenwriting teacher told me great art or great music, great song is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. When you're writing a song, what role does intention play in your creative process?
I try to do it for me personally because, as we all know, musicians are people with awful egos. But I put the intention in it, and as we said earlier, the person will who hears it will do whatever they want with it, because I don't have control over that. I have to give up control over the perception, but I have all the control I want over the intention. And that's what I love in my favorite artists and filmmakers, whatever, everywhere. I'm, for example, a big fan of David Lynch, and people love to argue about what Lynch films are about, what Twin Peaks was about, and I love to say, who gives a fuck? It's what Zappa used to say. I think who gives a shit? So it's the intention is there, but it's yours in the end.
Yeah. But it's also, you sort of answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Marcel Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your audience when you're writing your song?
I should think less about the audience when I'm writing the songs, but it's good to consider it since I think he was absolutely right. And I try to think of it in terms of I am necessarily going to be perceived. I don't like to be perceived, but if I can ease that in any way, that's pretty much all I try to do to try and make the perception landing smoother.
Yeah. Yeah, because you brought up Frank Zappa, and it's interesting because he would say, I write music for myself. If other people like it, great. And I would say to myself, I say, well, Frank, you're over romanticizing it because you know that if you hit these notes and say these words, kids will buy your music and then you can make more music. You've been raised in a consumer capitalism society, so you can't erase that completely. It's
Exactly.
you still know there's something. And then a lot of people say, well, my audience is me first, but then, you know, it's interesting. I appreciate you. So,
It's very honest. I
yeah,
think you're right in that way, and I think I have never known Frank because I was born much later after he died, and he is very important to me. But I think he was probably lying when he was saying that he didn't care what people think, because everybody cares what people think, and he liked Parched and Varese, and if he truly wanted to do what he wants, he probably would have done a lot more things that sound like them and that would not have soul at all, or that sounded more like it maybe towards the end of the career, I would say. And personally, I would love to do that kind of stuff, but maybe on my own, on my free time, when I'm
yeah,
done making records that I love to do, but I also know that people will receive much more easily.
yeah. Well, a good example is Charles Ives. He wrote music so out that he was a successful insurance man. So he made his money, and then he had nothing to think about when it came to his music in regards to, can I pay my rent and buy my food by selling my music?
It's not really a concern of mine because I know I paid so and so to make the record, and I'm never gonna make that money back. Not in this music industry. I studied enough to know that it's extremely rare to make back the amount that you put into the record.
Yeah,
But I still would like to, you never know on the off chance that anybody notices it. I would rather have it be the kind of, I would say, indie folk rock thing that
right,
I'm doing rather than the, I don't know, 43 tone per octave experimental thing
right.
that I would like to do. But
It's like, did Kate Bush know 30 years later they might go, wow, that's a good song. Let's cha-ching, Now she's all like, wow, 30 years later. I mean,
that's the thing in the industry, you kind of never know. And I always was told, and I found out myself, that it's all about being in the right place at the right time with the right people.
yeah,
It's all kind of chance, unless you have rich parents,
yeah,
which I don't. They are very supportive, but they are not rich, so I can't hold that against them. But
yeah,
it kind of gives to me more legitimacy in the end if you
yeah,
do make it, whatever that is.
yeah. Well, you brought up two issues. Let's go with this one first. Ben Ratliff, the jazz writer, says, I mean sound. as it has long functioned among jazz players as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that it can be heard at best in one single note. There's a few words I would dispute in it, but I think you get an idea of what he's talking about. This
It's
sound,
slightly dramatic.
yeah, it's slightly dramatic. So if you had some music writer who you really respect, what two or three adjectives would you appreciate them calling Gabby's sound?
Genuine would be one of them.
Nice.
And I'm trying not to be cheesy with that.
Hey,
Well,
cheesy's a good mine would
oh,
be
no,
cheesy.
I don't want to sound cheesy, but
That's mine. You just guessed mine. They would say your sounds cheesy.
I keep being told dreamy
Oh, dreamy's
is
good.
something that I've heard before, but
Yeah.
it's something that I like because it can mean a lot of things at once.
Yeah.
As in, oh, it sounds like something you'd hear in a dream, or it's kind of floaty or
Yeah.
dreamy in the sense that, oh, that's so gorgeous. It is dreamy. It's like, oh, thank you. Yeah.
No, that's good. You got it. And so uh
And
there's a
sorry,
line.
can I turn on
Go
the lights because it's
sure.
kind of dark?
Yep, sure.
I'll be
Go ahead.
right back.
No
Sorry.
worries.
Sorry, I am back. What was the question?
Totally cool. In fact, that halo lighting on your shoulder was amazing from that
I
what is
like it.
oh, it's
I think
amazing.
it's a self lamp.
It's just yeah, it just lights the edge of your shoulder. So yeah, Paul Schrader, the writer, he wrote Taxi Driver, screenwriter, he said the role of the artist is to attempt to sell out but fail. Any comments on that line?
Depends who the artist is.
Yeah.
Depends what selling out is. But to me, in the context that I put it in, if you can make a living in this system where the basic line is ethical consumption doesn't exist under capitalism, whatever. If you can manage to make a living off of your music and therefore sell out, if people say, oh well, they're a sellout now, I won't listen to their music because you've made money, who cares?
Yeah.
You're making the rent and you're making what you love. But if you think you've sold out and that makes you sad, then that's bad. But if you keep trying to sell out but you don't manage, then he's right. That is good.
Okay, here's a real bare bones stupid question. Patti Smith has a full page ad in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times selling luggage a couple months ago. Any comment?
Depends on the luggage, I would say.
Depends on the brand.
Yeah, I mean, some brands, I mean, see, that's another thing that I would say, brands are evil.
Yeah,
As a whole, as a concept, a brand is evil. But then again, there are better ways to soften the landing of being a brand in this world. If they're trying to be as ethical as they can, and if she's just trying to, as they say, secure that bag, maybe she's falling on hard times. Who knows?
yeah,
I've known friends in music lately who are much older, who could be my parents or grandparents, who are not necessarily making ends meet at the moment. So if they need it, secure the bag.
really well put. I've surveyed like 40 people on that question, and no one said depends on the brand. Really good point.
It's a
80%
easy
say,
question.
yeah. Well, it'll let 80% go, "She might need the money," or maybe she's giving it to a good cause. But anyways, let's stay on
I
music.
mean,
Yeah.
sorry, but
Yeah.
I think I would be more critical if I learned that the brand, I don't know, slaughters puppies to make the luggage, or that they, I don't know, well, in a
Yeah,
very logical way, I don't know if they've been known to use child labor or to
yeah,
just not be a great brand when it's very possible to improve a lot right now to do
yeah.
good in the world. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a complicated question. Yeah, I ask it as a real simple, like, yes or no. I'm just seeking, yes or no, but people don't always analyze the question and the layers of the question. So, no one had said that. So I appreciate that. So McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extend our teeth, clothing extends our skin, like philosophy or religion may be as the extension of consciousness. It doesn't have to be tangible per se. What does the guitar extend for you? What humanness?
I think there's several answers to this.
Go
There's
ahead.
a
Yeah.
very Freudian one, but logically, I would say it extends the what it uses, that is the arms and the hands. But I like also the interpretation that it can be a phallic symbol, because
Yeah.
we always say, well, the guitar players, the people who like to be up on the stage, they like the attention, they like to be seen, they like to show off in a way that's kind of very masculine. It's a very masculine dominated field. So I don't want to be afraid to say that sometimes guitar players can have kind of a dick contest going on, and that it's an extension of look who has the I don't
Yeah.
know, who has the best brand deal or
Yeah.
the shiniest whatever, the who can shred the fastest. Also, that used to be a huge thing.
Yeah.
There are some circles where it's healthier than others to be like, look, I'm practicing, I'm getting better at technique, but some are just like, look what I can do. And that's an extension of the ego.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, you answered it well. I appreciate that. And staying on music, Aaron Copland distinguishes the four elements of music: melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. In layperson's terms, how would you explain what is tone color?
isn't that already layperson's terms? Color?
That is good. No
I
one's
mean,
ever
that's
said that. That's good.
that's
It
that's a
is.
cute way to put it.
It is
It's
tone
very
color.
I think everybody is synesthetic to a way, I mean, to in the way that we perceive music, because it's always going to ring back to a memory or a feeling or a sense. It could be taste, color. So I think tone color is already a great starting point.
It's good.
But tone
How
color could be texture. I don't,
texture. That's another word. Yeah. How do you navigate the four? Do you find you emphasize one more, or is it a constant trying to keep all four equal? Melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. Is there any, discussion on
I would
your
love to brag.
yeah, go ahead.
I'd love to brag saying that, yeah, I keep a great balance between the four. But something I've learned recently is um, that I maybe have something that I didn't know I was good at, which was rhythm. Because people I was working with kept telling me, "You have good rhythm. You are on the spot when you need to be playing that bass or that guitar, whatever." But that may be detrimental to when I'm trying to find harmony, because I can find a melody, I think, but harmonizing is something I'm trying to get better at. There is a technical element, but innately, I think I just haven't focused on that much. Whereas tone color, I think is so personal and it's going to be there anyway that I don't think about it at all even. Maybe I should.
Well, I'm curious on, I'm happy you've hooked up with Ira Ingberg, and what is he teaching you of those 4? Is there any one he's emphasizing more or talking to you more about?
Well, what he always says is tempo and key, first of all. Then we'll see the rest. And that is some great advice. He's given me a lot of very good advice, but now whenever we're trying to get to a new song, when I have a new song, get the rhythm going and get the key. And the rest, all the rest you can bother with and worry about later. But so I think these two elements, which could be described as rhythm and melody, come first. And so that's what we emphasize first and foremost.
Beautiful. My friend says the 3 tenets of music are technique, theory, and taste. So technique is you're learning how to play it. Theory is you know what you're playing. How does one acquire taste?
How do you acquire taste? I think because you enjoy consuming media, whatever it is. I don't think there is, you just said taste, not good or bad taste. It's just taste in any way. I don't think I have good taste or bad taste. It's just that I enjoy consuming music a lot, any kind, most types. It's very hard to play me something that I will say, turn this off right now. So I think by being curious, consuming as much of the art that you are making that's made by others as possible, you will acquire tastes. Maybe it's good for some people who will look at what you listen to. Maybe it's bad. It's your problem.
Yeah, Gabby, interesting because I've just added that question recently, and a lot of people are saying exposure. And I love this Igor Stravinsky line. It goes, most people don't know what they like what they know. So if we're only exposed to a certain type of music, then we tend to find our aesthetic range in that type rather than, there's many types of music. And it
Well,
goes
there's
to,
people who do great, but
yeah,
you
but
can't always cater to one thing unless you're incredibly good at it, unless it's absolutely your thing. I always find it better to know, okay, well, this guy, I don't know, only does blues, but he listens to all of these things and he's very curious about everything. So that's what to me makes a better musician.
right here, knowing the big palette, even though you might specialize in a certain sound.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
well put.
Yeah. Because McLuhan says this line, I'm curious your reaction to it. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with it, but, and you knowing you were raised speaking French, and it's song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference.
I think that is technically true to an extent, to a maybe in a way that's different because that's, but I think maybe a bit awkwardly.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it can tie back to what Chomsky said about language. But when I was studying, because I forgot to mention that, but I also studied language on this side. when I was in school. And when I was studying phonology and prosody, which is literally mus- the musicality of speech, it can vary so much from one language to another that I noted that some musical elements in musicology dating way, way back from certain cultures across the globe were very different because of the language that was being spoken. So I'm very convinced that there's an element to that that's just phonological. People are used to certain sounds, they speak and hear certain sounds from birth, and they will recreate that and enjoy that more necessarily. But also no, not necessarily.
What's
Because
interesting,
I do know that you can get open to that very young.
yeah. But the word you said that went by fast, was it based in prose? Prose, you said some word
Prosody.
what is that? How do you spell that?
Prosody.
And what is that? What's prosody?
That's the musicality of speech.
Oh, that is the musicality of speech. Yeah.
Yeah, you know of Harry Parch,
Yes.
I'm sure. He was frustrated with the chromatic scale not being able to recreate the prosody and the musicality in speech. So that's why he made up. Well, he just came up with that theory system where he could put all of these tones in one octave because that was much more efficient in recreating in music what sounded like speech. Because my speech right now is not monotone. Some people are more monotone than others, but in tone, when you're trying to say something, when you're emphasizing some words, it's it's like a song. It's definitely what did you say McLuhan said that speech is song?
It's
That's
slow down
prosody.
speech. Yeah, it's slow down speech.
That is prosody to me, and that's also why music from different language groups can sound so different. Because the prosody of French I learned when I was going to be a French teacher to English speakers is very different from that of English. And I notice it even more now that I'm back in France after 2 months in the US, that the rhythm of speech, at least in California, that has been very Valley Girl-ized, is not the same at all as the beautiful, I would say, prosody. They're all beautiful, but it's very particular, the one that is in southern France, in French.
Yeah. You know, the tuba throat singers, um, their music to me can be transcendental. But once I found out, they basically sing about three things: their boots, their horses, and snow.
That's beautiful.
I know it's beautiful. Can you tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh?
There's too many.
Well, just name
Uh,
one. That's pretty good. Usually people strain, they
oh,
can
wow.
hardly name one.
It's got to be a Zappa piece. I know that.
That's good.
I think I would say Peaches and Regalia
Oh,
uh,
beautiful.
makes me emotional, but also it makes me laugh. Any
Oh,
rendition,
beautiful.
because of course humor belongs in music.
What's more fundamental, language or music?
They're linked anyway,
Yeah,
but music is more universal.
yeah. Thelonious Monk says there's no wrong notes. Any comment?
He is very right. I was learning the saxophone uh, last year, and he had a whole page of notes and advice.
Oh,
And I think
Read
that
that. Yeah.
that might have been in there,
Yep, I've
but
read that, yes.
it's very affirming. It's not
Yeah,
telling you whatever, don't improve, don't. No, it's a mistake is just no, and a note is just a mistake you make twice or something. I think
yeah,
Ira told me that one, that if you just make a mistake, just do it twice. It becomes part of the piece.
yep. Miles Davis speaks of the space between notes. How do you navigate that?
It's not easy at all to know when to shut up. People love to talk, but listening and being quiet is as important as talking, and every jazz musician will tell you that. I haven't done too much jazz myself, but from what I've done with the saxophone and improvising on any other instrument, the space between what you play when you play it is absolutely just as important as when you're playing. It's
Yeah,
the same, if that makes sense.
that makes
Sorry.
a lot of sense. That was well done. And Ruth Draper has an interesting comment about being present on a stage, because I know you've performed in front of people, and especially this pursuit you had following Primus and Flaming Lips really intrigues me. She says the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. How do you do that?
You have to be, I hate to say it, but kind of a people person. You can tell. I can tell right away when somebody on stage is at ease with people or not. If they're doing it um, everybody's doing it for themselves, but some people are putting on a show and some people are involving you into the process. And the Flaming Lips are a good example of very social people who will make you feel like you are part of the show. They're involving you into the music. They like to see you sing. They like to see you dance. They will communicate with the audience also in between songs. A lot of shows that I've seen, even in small pubs or anything, if the person that's playing is looking at you, is talking to you, and you feel like you're involved, that is a good performer. Even if technically, imagine it's not the greatest show you've gone to. If they're good with the audience, I will have had a good time and I will consider that it is probably something I want to see again. I might
What's
have got an
more,
attention there.
yeah, that was, I mean, I appreciate that because it is part of to me, music is a sacred act. It's a ritual that sort of was ruined by uh, recording it. But I don't mean ruined per se. It just changed it. But I appreciate that. What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Compromise has some conviction still in it.
Yeah,
So I would prefer that. I would, if that's an either or, compromise, because conviction leaves no space for critically doing whatever it is you're doing. And I don't want to be holier than thou. Like,
yeah.
I do everything critically all the time, and because nobody does. But if you're going the way of compromise, you can keep having conviction, and you can always weasel your way out of that.
I love the word weasel. Hey, Gabby, there's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right. Thank you. So, you've accomplished a lot in your life. Tell me these three elements, how they rate, like what played the biggest role, second and third: luck, skill, and ambition.
Luck is the first one, definitely. Ambition is the second one, and skill would be the last one because I don't consider myself skilled. I think I've improved, definitely, but I still don't think I am skilled because I am bad at not comparing myself to other people who I think are skilled. But ambition and luck are things you definitely have more control over. No luck, you don't. Ambition, you do, and that creates the luck.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
the
can
well,
create your own luck.
yeah, good well, Gary Player says, "The more you practice, the luckier you get."
I don't know because I have so many friends who are incredibly and insanely talented, but they're not seeing the recognition that they should get and the luck that they should have, and it's
I
very
see.
sad. So
No, it's yeah.
this is why
TSL,
I suffer from imposter syndrome.
what is that?
That I feel like I'm not skilled, but I still have managed to go outside of my room when it comes to making songs.
Right. But is that you mean fake it to make it?
Oh yeah,
Imposter? Yeah,
fake it until you make it, and
yeah,
it's like, oh, I'm gonna be found out one day. Everybody's gonna find out that I'm not skilled and that I'm an imposter. But everybody's an imposter.
yeah. Yeah, the most watched TED Talk ever, "Fake it till you make it." Yeah.
I have not seen it.
No, I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying
No.
it's so T.S. Eliot said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
In the most technical sense, it's in English now.
Not technical, in the most metaphorical sense. What form is
In the
your inner
most metaphorical sense.
yeah, in what form is your inner consciousness in?
It's gonna be extremely cheesy, but I think it all comes from love.
Oh, that's not cheesy, that's beautiful.
I fervently believe that love is that's it, and the rest is secondary.
Yeah.
And love is whatever you want it to be. It's kind of everything. It's wow, that really sounds like, somebody who's just done acid for the first time, but truly, your inner diatribe is nothing but love in the end when you truly have a look at it. Most of us, all of us.
That's beautiful. Gabby, did you get that more from the way your parents raised you or more on your own?
Equally, because I always consider my parents' opinion, but I was very much into my own head all the time as a child because I read a lot of books and I was kind of bullied, so I didn't have much time to care for what people are trying to put into my head. So most rather on my own.
Yeah. Two of my film heroes have this similar feeling. George Manupelli says, ignore yourself. Jonas Mika says, there is no self expression. And the great jazz pianist Cecil Taylor says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Stupid question, but is art making, music making more self expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever technology, culture, environments are dominant?
I think whoever said um, that they're just a vehicle is completely ignoring, would like to ignore that they have a self. We would all love to think that there is no self, but in the end, it keeps being built because we can't escape perception. So, self, self recognition, whatever they say, self recognition through perception, through the other.
Yeah. Can
Sorry, what's
art
the question?
well, no, and here's the really hidden question is, can art making, music making be egoless?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I was talking about this with somebody, I think just yesterday, and I was saying there is nobody with more ego problems than musicians all the time. And we love to say, well, it's no, I'm just small potatoes, it's fine. I'm no. We all struggle with ego and we all have this inner very kind of psychoanalysis like desires of I would love to be seen, I would love to be listened to and heard and looked at, and that's nothing to be ashamed about. It's only human. To
Yep,
have an ego is only human and it's normal, and everybody would love to be said I love you in the end. And like I see what you're doing and I enjoy your company and whatever. It's very normal. I think we should stop shaming people for wanting attention.
yeah, I agree. Is perception reality?
I think that was one of the assignments I got in high school philosophy. I can't remember what I said. I think um, yes and no. Objective reality, I would like to believe exists, but it's very comforting to think your perception is the only reality that you have, which can only be the truth unless for some reason you can, I don't know, transcend and be into another place and be in two places at the same time. But your perception in the end is just all that you have, and it's yours to deal with. So that's your own reality, and that's real.
No, well put. And Louis Buñuel said, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Any comment?
Yes,
Yeah.
I definitely agree because, as I just said, that's all you can ever be sure of is that you can perceive what is around you, but you can never be sure that it's going to be what the person next to you is also perceiving, which is terrifying and comforting, as I said. So, to claim a truth as universal is bold, and we would all love to have universal truths of the universe. And maybe there are some that we consider that we take as a given because it's pretty obvious, but when you really get down to it, not really.
Well, related is the cliche, the journey is more important than the destination. Why do we have to name or uh, seek a destination if the journey's more important?
Good question. I have not named the destination myself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want to believe there's one.
Good.
I would hate there to be one because then I would always be like, when are we getting there?
Yeah.
I was really that child in the car, and I am still that child. I see it. It's what I said earlier. I don't want to know the future. The future.
Yeah.
I don't want to know about the destination.
Yeah.
It's more important to me if I'm on the train to be looking out the window, not
Yeah.
to be in the seat of the person driving the train.
Good. That's flaneur. That's psychogeography. Really good. So Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
As in the process is done, or that I'm trying to turn into a strength?
Yeah, it doesn't
Because,
have to be
yeah,
it doesn't have to be in the past. It can be currently or a hope or yeah,
right.
it's
Well, that's
just that
something.
idea of turning what in general is called a weakness and flipping it into a strength.
I'm in a very particular situation where I suffer from a lot of self consciousness because I'll go quick about this, but I was assigned female at birth. And then when I was about 13, I came out as a guy, and I lived as a guy for a few years, and I went on hormones medically for about 4 or so years. And then I just realized it was not the path for me. It can work for some people. Some people are very happy with it, and I'm very happy for them, and I support them. But personally, I just was a woman and accepting that and not being self-conscious what about my past, about all the past. And that's where some of my issues with the past come in, and the self-consciousness of am I a normal woman anymore? And do I look normal? Are people going to look at me weird? What I've been doing with the music lately is to try and take that self-consciousness and put it into the music, doing a catharsis about that, trying to be open about it rather than being like, well, that is behind me now. I don't have to care about it. I can't just forget about that. I would rather say it's part of the journey.
Yeah.
And in a way, I was probably meant to. Um, Somebody very dear to me told me that if I had not gone through that, I would not have found out that I am the woman I am in a way. So
Yeah.
I had to go through that, surely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for telling me that. That's a you understood that question. How do you find peace of mind?
It's getting more and more difficult, but I would say the same answer I gave earlier, taking it easy.
Take it
I
easy is a
think
great answer.
the greatest peace of mind I can think of recently is when I was with my roommate's best friend. We were sitting on the bed and they had cut a watermelon for us to eat. And we just sat there, and it was a hot day in LA, and we were just it's as simple as eating the watermelon, having a good time with somebody that you love. For some people, it can be being alone with yourself can bring peace of mind. Personally, it just makes me dwell with being alone with myself. But to share something really, really simple, it doesn't have to be complicated, brings a lot of peace of mind when you need it.
Yeah. Gabby, I asked for 90 minutes. Can you go a little longer or you got to end?
I have no bedtime. The sun is going down, but I have no bedtime.
So maybe another 10 or 15 minutes is okay.
Sure.
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I like that one. I'm not going to say take it easy again, because when you're 12, you can't take it easy when you're 12. It's impossible. It's a terrible age. I would tell her it's gonna be okay, and do not roll cigarettes and other joints in receipts from the grocery store. Stop doing that. It's stupid. But I think she would have loved to hear from an older trusted person. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna be. It's all good. It's not pleasant to be 12, but it's not going to be like this forever. So
I
I
love
try and be that person when I meet younger people too.
it's really beautiful. I like that. It reminded me of Martha Colburn. You know, she's this wild filmmaker, and she says, "You mean I have any regrets?" I says, "Well, no. Just what would you say to yourself?" She says, "Quit drinking all that peppermint schnapps."
No, I think young Gabby has plenty of mistakes to make to understand that she should not drink so much tequila for starters. But the whole "oh, I'm too scared to go buy rolling paper" thing is stupid. You can order them online. Do that. Don't roll up receipts. That is so stupid. You don't know what's in the ink. I really that's some advice I think any 12-year-old can take. Besides
Beautiful.
not smoking at all, but
Yeah,
that's a
but
mistake you have to make.
also I got to tell you, the great Dr. John, New Orleans pianist. When I asked him that question, he goes, "I won't go there." He was like, that sounds too voodoo to like go and meet himself as a 12-year-old.
It can be very difficult for some people. They may
Yeah,
not want to think about that time period at all.
yeah,
But I used to be like that. I used to have so much trouble with when I was 12, that whole time in my life that I didn't want to think about it, but now I'm making peace with the past. Music
beautiful.
helps with
Yeah,
that, but I was bound to face it anyway because we all go to sleep at night and need things to worry about.
yeah.
So making peace with it is good.
Gabby, these are 5 quick Alan Watts questions just off the top of your head in a couple words. 1, who started it all?
Some guy,
Are we going to make it?
of course,
Where do we put it?
conveniently right there.
Who's cleaning it up?
All of us,
Is it serious?
not at all.
Wow, beautiful. There's a line that goes, "You create what you resist." Bob Goldthwait morphed it into, "You are what you hate." James Joyce said, "It's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve." And Louis Buñuel said, "Thank God I'm an atheist." So what's your opinion of this line? I'm not saying I agree or disagree with it, but just you create what you resist. Not you, Gabby, but one creates what one resists. Any comment on that idea?
Yeah, I think that ties back, I think, to what I briefly said, that if you get so absorbed into not doing something that you're obsessed with hating, you end up building your life around it. You end up being so contrarian that you've built yourself around it. You failed because it's so much a part of your life by trying to oppose it
Yeah.
in a way. That's why I do see many self-proclaimed atheists whose, well, funny choice of word, whose crusade is just so much against religion. You would think it's not very important in their life, but it's like their main uh,
Yeah.
battle horse. Like they will die on this hill.
Yeah.
Just take it easy. Sorry.
They're, they're evangelists for something they're claiming other people are obsessed with. They're
Yes.
obsessed with this. Yeah. Can you forget to die?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't have to be dying. You can just not be bothered.
Yeah. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
I love to not care about that as long as it's coming out.
They're very good. If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Take it easy. No, I have to stop dragging that horse into the ground or something. I think, as I said, something about a car sliding on ice.
Oh, Car Sliding on Ice is a great title. They wanna scent the glue in the binding of your autobiography. What title would it be? I mean, excuse me, I said that wrong. What smell would it be? They wanna scent the glue in the binding. What smell would it be?
Lately, I've been obsessed with cinnamon and vanilla, but I would probably want it to smell like my mom's laundry or something.
Oh, Mom's Laundry is really nice. I love all 3 of those, though, really good. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed, and what would it be made of?
I want it to be made of something that's very easy to destroy because I would want it destroyed as soon as possible, but displayed like somewhere very ominous. Like, we have many of these little forests here in Normandy, lower Normandy, that you can explore and get lost in. And I would love for some people to just maybe stumble upon just having a family hike, and there's the study of a random person. Like, who's this woman? Who even is she? That would be great. I don't want it to be in my hometown. That would be embarrassing. I want it to be ominous and strange.
Gabby, tell me something good you never had and you never want.
$1 billion.
That's the 3 answers I get the most are
Yeah.
money, fame, and heroin.
Oh, all three. Yeah,
Those are the 3
all
answers
three
I
are
get.
good.
If
But
you were
that's
in a
just off the top of my head.
No, that's a fine. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
It would really depend on the situation. I guess I would probably drown myself.
What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
That inspires me, not depresses me.
Now people have been flipping it. They go, "I don't have
Yeah.
any that inspires me." I tell you that doesn't inspire me. But either way, you can do it either way.
No, absolutely. No, there are cultural shifts that still inspire me, and I think if that is still a thing that's happening right now, that's just now the way that we can look again critically and have a lot of fun analyzing media from this past century, I would say. Just this new revisiting the past. I'm too
Yeah,
hung up on the past and old media, and I'm very sadly out of touch with a lot of things that are happening now. So, what inspires me is, with everything that we know now, everything that we've studied now, the new looks at the past. And to me, that's a cultural shift because then we bring it back here.
yeah. It reminds me of a lot, McLuhan called it rear view mirrorism, that we go forward and we're always looking in the rear view mirror, but Umberto Eco really said it well. He says, "Well, we can stand on the shoulders of giants. We're standing on the shoulders of our influences, but we may be able to look farther than them." You know?
Yes, they are two very important authors, and I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah,
That it's important to know the past, to analyze the past, to look critically at the past. But if you get too hung up on it, it's just a legacy. It's not meant to be
yeah,
repeated. It's not meant to be. It's not very progressive to want to stay there.
yeah,
But it's very enjoyable to look, to think, to put yourself in the shoes of what would it have been like to live, I don't know, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, even.
Yeah.
and then bring it back here, bring it back to 2022.
Yeah.
Review mirrorism. I will have to remember that.
I love that rear view mirrorism. That's funny. Thornton Wilder said in 1928, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. How do you process that idea? How would you react to that
Very
idea?
easily. I think I practice it myself a lot. You can more or less hide whatever you want into the art to different um, states of stenography, or however you would want to call it. You can be very obvious about what you're putting in there, and I like to be semi obvious. To me, it's not hidden at all. But many people, as I said, have said to me, "Oh, I didn't see at all that it was about this or that." As I get too into my own head, and the hiding becomes unintentional. So, a lot of the time, whether we want to or not, we will hide a lot of things.
Yeah. Billy Wilder said, make the subtleties obvious.
Yes, they're obvious to me, to me,
Right.
because I'm the one who made them up.
Right. Well, Gabby, this has been truly enlightening. The last question is, what gives you the most optimism?
Gonna be cheesy again. It's the peace of mind that I get from moments like eating watermelon with my best
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
It's having a pint at the pub with people you haven't seen in 6 months. It's the little things, absolutely the little things. Everybody will say, "Oh, it's all about the little things," but they will not go in depth about how important it actually is, because it really takes the load off of your mind when things get very heavy and you feel like you're not gonna make it and we're not gonna make it. It's not true.
Yeah.
There's all the little things that are created by love, which comes first and everything else is secondary. And that's a really beautiful thing. That's worth continuing for. Otherwise, I would be long gone.
Yeah. Well, Eden Abez, the proto hippie author of the song Nature Boy, said the greatest lesson we can learn is to love and be loved in return. So I like that you brought that up because you sort of pulled it full circle. My first question, what's the best thing for a human being? I got that from my friend who studied Wilhelm Reich, said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And then they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life, what gives you the most optimism? And he says, other people. So, you
It's
sharing
true.
the watermelon, right? You sharing the watermelon or your pint with your friends, the other people is an amazing thing. Yeah.
It's very true. It's very, some people will want to be very cynical about it and say, "Oh, you're being cheesy, love and stuff." But no, that you there's a lot to hate about the hippies, but they were right about love, and it's coming first.
Yeah. Well, Gabby, this has been truly enlightening. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm going to hit the end button, but I hope this never ends and that we can continue our discussion and making
Sure.
more music forever.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Gabby.
See ya.